So yesterday, the NBA Players Association posted a video from Karl-Anthony Towns, the Minnesota Timberwolves center. So I'm about to play that real quick for y'all.
Today marks the 1 year. Today marks the 1 year. And thank you. But there's still so much more work to be done.
Sorry about that. I was getting a major echo. So hopefully when I try to play the Kyle Kalinske clip, it won't have the same issue. So pretty much Karl-Anthony Towns said that he's trying to implore people to call their senators to get the George Floyd Act passed through the Senate. It has passed the House already, but we can't have that. But it's not a good thing to have happen. If there's one criticism I have of the NBA players and the political activism is that they get pulled in the wrong direction. Their activism gets sheep-herded and co-opted into the Democratic Party. And the vast majority of NBA players seem more like corporate liberals. Even though there's moments where they do things that are better than your average Democrat, my main top example of that would be LeBron James starting his own school in Akron. And I think that it's a thing that needs to go through the whole entire country. And the fact that conservatives took issue with it because of city funding. But the main point was LeBron James wanted to make sure that school remained public. But this instead is an example of why they're being sheep-herded into the wrong direction with by trying to get people to help implore their senators to pass the George Floyd Act. So the first issue of the George Floyd Act is that it gives the police more money. So I'm going to go through a few of the key bullet points and give you the good and the bad of it. So there's recently been a push to try to get this bipartisan George Floyd Act through the Senate. The They had tried to do it in 2020, but the bill ended up just being stuck on Mitch McConnell's desk and never got anywhere past that. But with the 1 year since George Floyd got killed by police, it's been a moment where Democrats have tried to revive this revised 2021 version of it. I think the biggest positive of this bill is the federal ending of qualified immunity. That's probably the biggest overall positive of this George Floyd Act. However, the federal level doesn't always translate to the local and state level, which is why you probably need the qualified immunity to happen state by state instead, if you really wanted it to work better. And that, remember last year when Tim Scott crafted a bill, which was even more simplistic than the George Floyd Policing Act. It's been Democrats quickly dismissed that bill, and Republicans have used that as an opportunity to try to paint the Democrats as not really wanting to do anything about police reform. I don't think that's completely true. However, this bill wouldn't be the right way to go about it. But the big issue about this bill is a lot of it contains reforms that the police can, at a moment's notice, electively decide to not follow. Like, first off, the banning of chokeholds is one that the police could always change their mind on not following. Then the trying to restrict the no knock warrants, another reform that, in the heat of the moment, the police can ultimately selectively ignore. Well, another small positive of the bill is the data on police misconduct. Well, at least positive in the way that there will, at least you'll know which police have done wrong. However, the issue with this is it doesn't guarantee that the departments will follow through on using the data correctly as a means of preventing police officers from working for their department should the misconduct be warranted enough to not hire them. Because right now we've seen that officers can easily go work somewhere else if they happen to get fired from their department. Next is making racial profiling illegal. Once again, this is another one of those reforms that would be very easy for police officers to avoid. First off, even the racist police officers, how many of them are really going to admit that they racially profiled someone? The problem is this doesn't go beyond consciousness, and it won't do anything. And most people's consciousness, especially police departments all around the country, infiltrated with white supremacy, it's not going to change their consciousness since hardly anyone will truly admit that they're racist, and that's part of the thing that keeps police departments from more transformative change. I think the demand has risen since last year the with George Floyd killing happening. But there's still a problem with a group of people trying to block transformative change. And Democrats, in ways, are more responsible for blocking the transformative police change that we really need. In fact, I saw a graph that proves that it's honestly Democrats on average who receive more campaign funding from police. Here's what I got into the point about limiting the violence police can use. This is just another example of a reform that they can just decide not to follow, then make the I feared for my life defense. Limiting military equipment. So, one of the things that you'll notice with police departments and there being overfunding is that they're going to spend a lot of the extra money that they have on military equipment. And based on the text here, it's like a recommendation rather than a demand. The mandating of body cameras. I thought that it was already a mandate. Here's the problem with that one. We've already seen how with these body cameras, when the police have a instance where it makes them look really bad, they're going to do all they can to prevent the body camera footage from making it public. And that's what we've seen with this recent killing of Andrew Brown Jr. They don't want the public to see that because it will become dead obvious that they were extremely wrong in that case. The body cams are supposed to expose what really happens in instances of police brutality. It doesn't work if the departments can step in and prevent the body cam footage from going public. And in that Andrew Brown Jr. case example, it's the reason why you're not going to see the outrage at the level it should be because they know they fucked up badly there. And they're going to try to keep the public's outrage toned down. And once again, even with the body cameras on, it's not like a parent watching over you. It's more like a friend. And at this point, they're still extremely protected. And once again, what these liberal reformist bills do is redress up the same things. And a lot of this bill is the repackaging. And what I liken it to is how much, for example, Kane got repackaged in his WWE career. Now, Glenn Jacobs, the libertarian mayor of Knoxville, that's the example I like to use a police for. Look at all the different looks that Kane had in his career, and that's the type of police reform that Democrats offer you. And pretty much what it comes down to is you're mainly supporting the George Floyd Act for federal qualified immunity, which may not even work as well as you'd like because of it needs to be strengthened at the local and state level. That's pretty much why we shouldn't be for the George Floyd Act and why I wouldn't be contacting Congress representatives and House reps and senators over trying to get this bill through. At the end of the article, it mentioned the Breathe Act. And I think that the Breathe Act is the better bill to push for. This one of the authors of the bill was Ayanna Pressley of the Squad. The issue with this Breathe Act is the fact that this bill is sitting on Nancy Pelosi's desk and it won't get brought to a vote, plain and simple. And it's also in part because they're not forcing the vote on this stuff. The progressives we have in the House and the couple in the Senate, they consider it good enough to just show and tell. Not enough action. I'm going to go over this Breathe Act real quick. Schools for free of police and full of trained counselors and restorative justice programs where all our children are kept safe and their needs are met. In Denver, that the DPS schools director Tay Anderson still currently under hot water at the moment, but over the course of last year, one of the things he did work on was removing police officers from schools. And it's a thing that needs to happen in more schools across the country. So there's not very many, there's a few cities here and there that have already followed through on that. Imagine easy access to trained, trauma informed interventionists who can be called on domestic violence situations and who are equipped to facilitate long term safety, healing, and prevention. This stems to the point of police being called for these instances and not having the frame of mind to properly respond to these situations. They've been designed to respond with violence, even though what the police are supposed to be is trying to take down violence. De-escalate is the word. Their job is to de-escalate, but in situations with mental health, they do the opposite. There's been countless cases of autistic, death, people who have been brutalized because police have lacked the frame of mind to have the versatility to respond to those situations. Imagine 911 operators dispatching unwanted mental health experts instead of police involving behavioral health crises and callers being allowed to request responders that connect to the gender identity of the person in crisis. And I kind of tied into the previous one as well. So I responded to that as well. And the four simple ideas of it is divest federal resources from incarceration and policing. Invest in new non-punitive, non-carceral approaches to community safety that lead states to shrink their criminal legal systems and center the protection of Black lives, including Black mothers, Black trans people, and Black women. Allocate new money to build healthy, sustainable, and equitable communities. Hold political leaders to their promises and enhance self-determination of all Black communities. Uprisings around the country changed what was possible. What felt impossible 2 months ago is being accomplished now. What seems impossible today is doable tomorrow, and we will be the ones to make it happen. We are our ancestors' wildest dreams. I think that gave a very good summary of what this bill aims to do. So I'm going to take it back to this tweet from the NBA Players Association. It's because the NBA has the NBA players and the association, they have the ability to use their platform to push for things that go beyond the scope of what the Democratic Party is willing to offer. And this Breathe Act is an example of how that could happen. The issue with NBA players, as I stated at the start, and your liberal professional athletes and celebrities, is that they don't, they toe the party line. There's a few exceptions, such as Justin Jackson. In a way, people, you need the stars of your league to do it as well. It's definitely more impactful when you got your stars advocating for things that go beyond the what the Democratic Party offers. While role players are nice, and it is good to see the occasional few be right on the issue, like a Justin Jackson, a David West. The issue is they don't have the notoriety at this time to be an advocate of the Breathe Act, push for force the vote. If we really want that impact to amplify, it has to come from the Karl-Anthony Townses, the LeBron James, the Chris Pauls. It's those guys that have to do it if they want the extra attention to, and you want the Overton window to be shifted further left. And as long as you got the majority of your liberal celebrities just towing the party line, it's going to make advancing the left policies even harder. And the reasons why I've started the Rochford files, it's to advance left policy. So that means I'm not going to go and just respond to libertarians all day and right wingers, because reacting to the Ben Shapiro's, Steven Crowder's, those aren't going to advance our movement if we're just being reactive. And I'm being proactive instead because I feel like it's going to help more. Do things like this where I try to pull the Overton window further left, which is why I'm disagreeing with people like Karl-Anthony Towns and pushing for the George Floyd Act. It's not because, and I'm doing it to the left of him. I'm not disagreeing to his right because I'm not going to punch left on people. I'm always going to punch up and punch right. And it's important to make sure people know that even your more politically active celebrities and athletes aren't always acting in our best interest. And you see from time to time when there's people that challenge them on social media, for example, the mob mentality, suffocates those people. And I've seen instances of John Legend and a couple others that have challenged, have really shot down criticism from their left when they get politically active. Oh, Don Cheadle was the other one who couldn't handle the criticism from his left. And this is why we need to do it more. There's going to be a few celebrities and athletes we have a chance to pull further left if they're responsive, if they keep their head open to the criticisms we